Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining. We had a crazy day in the market yesterday with the S&P 500 and a bunch of stocks going all over the place. If we look at the SPY right now, it is trending up to start the day. We are coming pretty close to a big resistance level right at 440. We're sitting right around like $436.50 right now. But either way, we are seeing a pretty strong recovery, and we have certain stocks like Uber really popping up. Uber specifically is breaking out. They revised their outlook, and they're just booming to start the day.
Yeah, Uber actually has a lot of momentum, Mike, and it looks like it could possibly continue here at open as well. The setup looks pretty good. And if they could break 42.50, which is that high there in pre-market, I feel like this one could definitely run. And look at how well they've been bouncing off support too. It honestly seems like a pretty good longer term pickup even down here at these levels. But man, that's a great recovery. And just like we're seeing with the S&P 500, the market's really popping back up. And I'm really curious to see if we'll be able to pop back up above this pre-market resistance up here around 430, right around 439 even. I feel like that's going to be a pretty big intraday level for us.
For sure. And guys, let us know what stocks you guys are watching this morning. I know there was a bunch of crazy movement yesterday. I definitely have my eyes on some of these cruise line stocks like RCL. I feel like they are in a relatively good position for a pop back up. And we've been kind of seeing like a rotation out of tech and into some of these recovery plays.
Yeah, we really have. And these cruise lines have been awesome. And CCL today has a great setup. They kind of gapped up in pre-market, came right back down to that 23.40 support. And it definitely looks like it could possibly be setting up for a nice move here at market open. So definitely watch them. I think they could definitely be good. Like you said, RCL is one of my favorite longer term pickups right now at these levels. And I know yesterday those airlines were doing very well. We saw AAL actually doing very well. And then today, again, it actually gapped up in pre-market. So that's decent to see.
There we go. So thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you, David, Alex, Keisha, and Info. Let us know what stocks you guys are watching to start the day. A ton of green on my watch list. There's actually only one red stock, and unfortunately, it's DraftKings. Ugh.
Yeah, and I have it up right here. But, even though it's red, look at these crazy candles DraftKings was posting in pre-market. This might be a little bit of a glitch with the way the bids and asks are and the way it works with pre-market. But, man, these are some crazy volatile candles. And I'll be honest, if the overall market recovers, I could see DraftKings coming back up as well. But it looks like right now, at least at the first minute here of open, the SPY has a pretty big red candle going on. So, we've seen this the past few times or over the past week, Mike. Every night, it seems like the market is rising up in after hours and then in pre-market. But then whenever the market actually opens, it ends up getting a lot of red and a lot of selling pressure ends up coming in. So I don't know. We might be seeing that again today where it just rose in pre-market and it might sell off now at open again.
All right, and then Info mentioned Boeing. I really like this play. It's a solid company, solid stock, and it's at a pretty big level right now, right around 210.
Yeah, it actually is right on that support, and hopefully it hits this and pops back up. I know yesterday it went all the way down to 206. I think as long as Boeing can hold above 200 over the next 2 weeks, I think it'll be a great pickup. And man, I love it. I think it's a great stock for the long term. Just be a little careful if the overall market falls. Boeing will probably fall too, but I think it's a great pickup right here for the longer term as well. And Mike, one of my favorite stocks today is actually BLNK. They actually have some green going on, and I really hope that these stocks can get back up because, man, they've been getting beaten down the past couple of days.
There we go. Vicky said, good morning, watching Lucid, Etsy, and PayPal. There we go. A lot of solid stocks. Lucid is still going, Tom. I mean, talk about momentum. It looks great.
Yeah, they're right at that 25 resistance. If we break this, I think it could have a pretty big run today. We had a big run up yesterday right after we broke out above 23.50, ended up running all the way up to around in after hours 24.60. So overall, great moves out of Lucid. It's bouncing off the 100 SMA right here, along with this kind of 24.50 support. So it looks pretty good, Mike. I think we could possibly see another breakout here above 25 when it does happen. And look at this on the 1 minute. There's definitely some more green coming back in.
There we go. All right. And then we have Spacely saying, good morning. Thank you so much for joining, Spacely. Clinton goes, what's up, stocked up fam? Dead cat bounce, or what are y'all thinking about the market? So, you know what, I'm just expecting, and I'll share my opinion, and then Tom, you could share yours. I'm just kind of expecting like a slow sell-off. maybe down to 420 or so. I'm not expecting like a crash by any means, but the market has rallied so much for so long. Plus, we are seeing some really bad news out of China. Plus, when people take profits, a lot of times it just like accelerates, like we saw yesterday. Like we saw a little bit of selling pressure in pre-market, and then more throughout the day, and then towards like the middle to the end of the day, like the market was just in free fall. So I'm just kind of expecting like a slow sell off, not necessarily today, but more so like over like the next couple days to the next couple weeks. But just to recap, like I'm not expecting a crash like we saw in February or March of 2020.
Yeah, those crashes were really crazy. And if we go look back then, the S&P fell around 30%. And I don't think we'll get near 30% again unless something really, really bad happens. But I'm more with you. I could see like 420 coming up. And over the next few days, I'm going to be really careful with the SPY because, Powell's talking tomorrow after that FOMC meeting, and he's going to be giving that press conference. And it's going to be a pretty interesting one. They're expecting the Feds to do lots of different things. And we'll have to see just what they end up doing because lots of people are expecting them to taper asset purchasing. Some people are saying, well, now that the market's starting to go down, they probably won't taper it. So I don't know. We'll just have to see what ends up happening. But I think it'll definitely impact the market, at least within those couple hours that he ends up talking. I think that every time he talks, it moves the market one way or the other. And if it ends up moving it up, then it moves it up. But I think that's going to be the main thing over the next few days. That's going to play, I think, a pretty big role in the overall market. And like I said earlier, I feel like the market's in this weird funk where it sells off at open every single day, and then it ends up just moving back up just to end up falling off at open again. Like we can see in pre-market almost every day last week, the market was kind of popping up, and then right at open, we just saw that selling pressure. And I feel like we could see that continue again for the next couple days. And we're kind of seeing that right now as it's selling off at open again.
For sure. So it looks like the most momentum is actually coming out of like some of these recovery plays. So you could say like Delta Airlines, you could say some of these cruise lines as well. But talk about airlines. Like they are one of the few like sectors that were green yesterday and today.
Yeah, they are. And look at Delta, actually. They have a pretty big resistance coming up right around 41.80, and they're getting really close, and they have a lot of momentum breaking their pre-market highs and everything. You're right. They're for some reason, this sector is really popping off, and they're also like right at support. Delta Airlines was bouncing off of their 37.50 support. They hit it 2 or 3 times here over the past month, and they've been really consolidating around $40. I still think that they're at a pretty good level for the long term right now, too. And Delta is one of the better airlines out there. So I think it's a great run. And it looks like it might try to break out of this little channel it's in. I would say we need to break out above $42. Let me get on the 90-day, 15-minute to see the exact number here. Yeah, the top's going to be right at like 41.80, like I said. So I'd say if we break that, we could see a really good run.
There we go. And RCL's looking great as well. We have I'm Fierce saying good morning, everyone. Jorge's joining up. So thank you guys so much for joining. Let us know what stocks you're watching. I know we're seeing a lot of crazy movement in the market, over like the past couple weeks or so. So, let us know what you're watching. We'll definitely take a look. I would say out of everything, Tom, I really, really have my eyes on RCL. I think the setup looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think it does too. There's lots of momentum coming in right here at open, and we're just continuing to run up, and it looks like there's a big resistance around 85, and I would think we could definitely get up there and test that today. Look at this 1 minute since open. I mean, it's just been pretty much straight to the upside, so that's awesome to see. My favorite one's probably BLNK. Like I said earlier, they have a very similar setup to RCL right now, and they're even around the same pricing. Like they're around $29 to $30, and RCL, well, actually RCL's at 84. I was thinking more of like AAL, but yeah, looking at RCL, it has very similar moves to like BLNK, and maybe another one, Mike, that's continuing up is UPST. They're turning back to the upside again, and man, I'm wondering if they'll try to retest that high around 308 or 310 again.
I wouldn't be surprised.
All they do is go up.
I know, every day it just goes up. DraftKings actually turned around, it looks like. Let's take a look. DKNG. Yeah, they're in the green by 1% now, which is great to see. I know that they were super, super volatile right at open because news came out that DraftKings actually made an offer to acquire a UK sports company, Entain, for $20 billion in stock. So, hey, DraftKings it just seems like they're always expanding. Like you refresh the news and they have a deal with UFC or deal with this or that or whatever, and they're just playing offense, and I love it.
Yeah, and that's an awesome pickup there. $20 billion in stock. That's awesome for DraftKings. They don't even have to pay them. They're just giving them stock pretty
Yep.
much, which is awesome for them. The chances of Entain selling that off right away is probably pretty low. If they hold that for a few years, who knows what that 20 billion might turn into. But wow, I mean, this is crazy with DraftKings bouncing right off that support around $55, Mike. I know we hit that yesterday. It looked really, really good. And I love the pop back up today with this deal. And like you said, they just don't slow down. They just continue to come out with good news. And that deal must be why we saw this crazy movement here in pre-market. You can see this crazy 15-minute candle. But yeah, DraftKings has an awesome bounce off that 56 support. And overall, it's bouncing back up very, very nicely. And I'm really glad they got that deal, Mike. I hope it makes them turn around. But even if they don't turn around over the next couple days, I think it'll end up being great over the next few months. Just, keep in mind, if the SPY goes down, a lot of these stocks are going to go down with it. So just don't be, just for everybody else out there, don't be too worried about DraftKings if it falls below 55. As long as we hold the 45 support, I think we'll be good.
Yeah, so they didn't actually buy the company yet. They just made an offer. So hopefully it goes through. And yeah, and then we have Spacely saying Snap is releasing a game exclusively within their app. They've been holding that $72 level. I'm thinking about running a 73 strike call. I mean, I can see it. I remember when Netflix announced that they are going to have games on their app, it actually exploded pretty well.
Yeah, it did. And you can see Snapchat really held its $70 support over the past few days. And that move off of that support yesterday at the end of the day was actually really, really good. And the way it's gapping up right now looks awesome. So I think it's a pretty good pickup too. And you're right around support. So if it does fall down and you see a pop below 70, then just get out right away. But if you see Snapchat here, it's actually holding its ground very, very well on the daily. And I could possibly see another retest of $80 soon.
There we go. All right, we have Rome saying, good morning, stocked up. Welcome to the stream. Jorge said, LCID is unstoppable, and it definitely seems like it. It reminds me of, some of these plays lately have just had so much momentum to the upside. It's crazy, and, it's really starting to pop off.
Yeah, and there we go. It finally broke $25. And one thing I just want to point out with Lucid really, really fast is it's hilarious to me how it flies up right after it broke support. Can you imagine how many people probably sold out, Mike, on that one day that they had that bad gap down, and then now the stock's flying right back up? Sometimes the market's like that. It's pretty crazy, but we've been straight up ever since that one gap down. It's been pretty nice, actually, and I hope they keep going. Lucid's one of my favorite companies, and I know they had some good news come out over the past weekend with some 500-hour charging or some 500-hour battery life or something. So definitely some pretty good news, and they're in a great sector for the long term.
There we go. All right, good stuff there. So let us know what stocks you're watching. I now only have one red stock on my watch list, which is now DraftKings again, unfortunately. But we are seeing a lot of upwards movement, especially out of BLNK, like Tom has on his chart now.
Yeah, and these stocks, this is part of those recovery type of plays. These stocks have been down for a long time. They've been really consolidating long support. BLNK is up 4%. We have CHPT up 0.74%, but they're also holding support very well. I know a really popular one is Plug. They actually look great on the daily chart. They're actually starting to really turn up, and they might actually, it looks like they might try to break out above 2650, which was their high of a couple days ago. Looks actually like some pretty good setups here in the market, Mike. And, these recovery plays can be pretty good out of these stocks. And if we see stocks like Apple or Microsoft maybe continuing their just slight sell-off, if these stocks continue to pop, I'll be perfectly fine with that. I'm sure Kathy Wood and all these people are buying up some of these awesome stocks down here by support. And it's honestly just creating some great opportunities like CHPT right on support, great levels at $20. Plugs another one. I know, Mike, you talked a lot about RUN. They're also right at their 42 support, looking pretty good.
For sure. So what are you thinking of RUN now? I know it's just been not really doing anything over the past couple weeks or so. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, today it's actually underperforming compared to like Blink, CHPT, and a couple of those, but I still think it's pretty good. And my main thing is that that whole sector is set to do very good for the or very well in the long term. So, and another big thing is that they're all mentioned in that infrastructure bill. Whenever that infrastructure bill news was going on, people were buying up these stocks like crazy. And now that the news kind of subsided, it's kind of going away. But I remember Pelosi set a date of October 1st for that news. So if we do see that infrastructure bill get passed around October 1st, I feel like that news might come back, and these EV charging stocks and solar stocks are going to get a lot of they're going to get some funding or some tax breaks from this bill. So that's a great thing to hear for these companies, and hopefully it sends them back up. But RUN is just right around support again at $40, and they're holding their level very, very well. I would think they could pop up just like CHPT or BLNK over the next few days.
Here we go, and let's take a look at the market overall real quick. We can see the SPY is technically up a little bit on the day, but looks like a very choppy open, some upwards movement, some downwards movement, but it's just not really moving at all.
Yeah, and it's hitting some of these SMAs and kind of moving back down. Personally, to me, it looks more like there's going to be some more selling pressure coming in. It kind of reminds me of yesterday, how it just slow and steadily like retested this bottom support at like 434 before finally breaking it and moving back to the downside. I feel like this morning we might have another level like that right around 435 even. So we'll just have to see what happens. But the 1000 SMA is also right there. So there's a lot of levels to look for on the SPY. And I don't know. Personally, I feel like it looks like it's going to keep selling off, but it's really hard to give a prediction on the SPY over the next 20 minutes or so. But overall, I feel like it does look like it might sell off. And just like I said, we've been seeing this pattern where the market rises towards the end of the day and then in pre-market and then continues to sell off at open. So if we see that pattern continue today, I'll definitely be eyeing it up. Like I said, if we break 435 to the downside, I'll probably be eyeing up some puts.
There we go. And then Keisha mentioned Jets, Jets. It's looking pretty good. Those recovery plays are looking really good. So I actually really like this one.
Yeah, me too. And these recovery plays are awesome. The airlines, I think, are going to be some of the better ones. And Jets is holding up. It looks just like an American Airlines chart or like a Delta chart. Really, it's really giving a good ETF. It's like great ETF over the whole sector of all those airlines. So that's why it looks so good. Right on that 22 support. I think it's a great pickup for the long term. And I'll tell you what, even like Leaps right now, I think would be a pretty good way to go. They've been consolidating for like a month or so. So I feel like that move is going to happen pretty soon.
Alrighty. And then we have info saying Uber is doing pretty good today. Yeah, they raised their outlook, which is great to see. I saw even news that they are expecting it to be their first quarter of like adjusted profits or something like that. I just skimmed through the headline. But long story short, they improved their outlook and they're running up. They have a lot of momentum, a lot of volume, and they're breaking out.
Yeah, and these stocks have been getting killed for the past few months for some reason. Ever since May, Uber had that bad earnings report and they just got killed off of that. Same thing with Dash, which is like DoorDash. Well, actually, they've done a little bit better. What was the other one? It's Uber and Lyft are the ones everyone look at. And yeah, Lyft is kind of off of their highs too. And I don't know like what's been going on with those two stocks, but I really hope Uber holds their support and flies back up. It's been a pretty good company. And I know that ever since they IPO'd, I don't know if you remember this, Mike, but whenever they IPO'd, people were going crazy about this stock. It fell all the way to $13 and really underperformed when it came on the market. But I really hope to see it go back up over the next few months. And you would think a stock like Uber could do pretty good because they have the ride sharing deal. They have the Uber Eats, which is where they're like food delivery service. So they have a lot of good stuff going for them. And I would really think that those would end up doing pretty well in the future.
Yep. All right. And then we have Mason saying UVXY, hold or ditch it. So I would say if you're holding existing like call positions, like, whether it be SPY or like any stock that runs with the market, then I would hold UVXY. But if this is just like a quick little like speculative trade, I would close a little bit of it, maybe like a third to a half of it. It is down like 5% today. And the market is starting to run a little bit. So, long story short, if you have plays that you're hedging, I would hold UVXY. But if it's just a quick trade, I'd probably sell like a third of it to like a half of it.
Yeah, and even if you sold a third or half of it in one of your quicker trades, you could always buy it. Like if the market ends up going up for the rest of the day today or something, and the VXX falls, you could always pick it up as another hedge against tomorrow because Powell's going to be speaking tomorrow. And who knows, that might send the market back down. So if you see the VIX fall down today and you sold out, it might be a good time to pick it up if it can go down to like 22 or maybe down towards that like 24 support. I don't think it would be too bad, especially with Powell talking tomorrow. I think there's definitely a chance for him to make the market go down. But just keep in mind, the past few times he's talked, he's actually made the market rise because, like Mike always says, that's kind of his job. He's out there to try to keep that sentiment good, and that's the whole point of him speaking. And that's why he has the job, probably because he does such a good job at keeping the market up.
Yep. And then we have James saying McDonald's is running this morning. So MCD up about 1.5%. Yeah, it's pretty big for a stock like McDonald's. Normally you don't see moves like this, but it's looking pretty good. There is a support right at 240 and then resistance right at 245. If it breaks above that resistance at 245, the next level is 247.
Man, these long-term traders must be so happy right now to see McDonald's flying up like this. It might hit all-time highs over the next few weeks. We're within 5 points of it. I could see it happening. We're really holding these the 100 SMA. If that market starts to pop back up off this dip, I could really see a possible rise back up out of MCD. And just like looking at the S&P 500 here, Mike, on the daily, we did pull right down to my 100 SMA and then pop right back up. We went a little bit through it, but who knows? A lot of people are saying that yesterday was the low and that that this might be a good time for a dip buy. And if we see that, I think McDonald's and some of these other stocks might hit all-time highs, but I'm honestly praying for the market to keep going down. But man, I would not be surprised if we saw this dip end up getting bought right back up. It seems like every time a dip happens lately, this ends up happening.
Alrighty. So we are seeing a lot of green out of even some of these tech stocks today. Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they're all green today. So they have been some of the hardest hit stocks like over the past 2 weeks or so. While other stocks, I guess like you could say like airlines and stuff, have actually grown. So it's nice to see some of these bigger name stocks pop back up. Even AMD's having a good day, up just under 1%. Bouncing off that 100 support, which is great to see. LCID is still running. They are now up over 7%. And Tom, I know a lot of people are watching this one. So, what are some top technical levels to watch for?
Yeah, Lucid's actually looking awesome. It's actually above a lot of the SMAs, and it hasn't been on the market for too long. So there isn't too many data points with those simple moving averages here. Like, for example, the 1,000 SMA is not even plotted because there's not even 1,000 days to measure with it yet. But overall, it's still a pretty good momentum here. And the problem is we're getting pretty close to some of these resistances now. I see a pretty big resistance right around $27 to $28. Let's go look at the 90-day, 15-minute, or I might even have to go back and look at the 180-day 4-hour. There's definitely a big resistance up there around 30, but I see another one right around like $28. I think that's going to be another hard level to get through, but we're honestly 2 points away from there. And if we go up to 28 today, that would be a great move. And man, Lucid had some awesome news, like I said, over the weekend with those batteries coming out. That's just a great thing to see. And I really like to see Lucid running like this. Unfortunately, though, like I said, it made me feel bad because we ended up breaking a key support at $20 a few weeks ago. And I think a lot of people probably got out whenever it broke that. But, overall, it's still having great moves right now. But the main technical level, I think, is going to be $28. I don't really see too much in between there. And the main thing is it was consolidating for a long time, right between 22 and 30. So just look out for those two levels. I think 22 and 30 might be the main ones to watch, but 28 definitely has a little resistance too.
And then check out QS. This stock is running. It's up like 14% on the day. News came out that their 8K showed that they signed a deal with the second top 10 auto original equipment manufacturer. So that's great news. They're popping up and they have a lot of momentum. I don't like this stock for the long term, but for the short term, their chart looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does look pretty decent, and it's bouncing right off that $20 support. And, we're seeing all these growth stocks right around support bouncing. And I could possibly see this stock continuing up with those other stocks, just like like with the airlines, with BLNK, with CHPT. I could see it keep going up. It's kind of reminds me of like a Palantir or something. It just consolidated for a long, long time. Hopefully, we can start to break out now. I see a pretty big resistance again, right at $25 even. So look out for that over the next couple days. But I would think if we could break 25 even, we could have a pretty safe run up to 30. There's honestly like not any resistance between there.
Alrighty. And then we have ANG asking about FedEx. So FDX, this stock has been getting smacked lately. I wouldn't play it just because there's earnings. Earnings are always a gamble, and even with the market right now, like the question is like even if they have great earnings, will we even see the stock pop? And if they have bad earnings, like what I mean. Like earnings is just such a gamble where I don't even like to play it. So I'm just gonna stay neutral.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to tell right now. And if we like the one thing with FedEx, they've honestly been pulling back pretty hard because they ran up so much with COVID that you just have to expect a little bit of a pullback. UPS is the same way. They've been pulling back after having these massive gaps, the upside. And I honestly could just see them continuing down. Even if FedEx has good earnings and they end up popping up right now, I could possibly see them keep going down. They're right at a good support though at 250. So it's going to be really hard to say. Like Mike said, it's it's like so 50-50. You might as well just flip a coin on this one. Or honestly, you'd probably have a better odds just going and playing roulette or something if you're going to try to play these earnings.
Yeah, I agree. And then we have Clinton saying, "Holy cow! Look at HLBZ. HLBZ. Let's take a look at it. Up 124%. It's
Whoa.
exploding up. I don't even know what's going on with this one. Let's see. Looking at the news. Oh, it looks like they have an Amazon deal with Italy.
Whoa. Hey, anything with Amazon's great.
Wow. So yeah, I'm looking into it right now. It says they're trading higher after a company announced a partnership with Amazon. So obviously that's huge, and we know what happened with AFRM with their Amazon deal.
Yeah, they just had a deal a while ago, and look at those gaps move to the upside. Like, that's awesome. I really hope it continues. Mike, what was the ticker again, though?
HLBZ.
HLBZ. Sorry, never even heard of it before you just mentioned it, but wow, this is such a great move. And anytime we see Amazon news, it really pops up. And I wonder what did that news come out a couple days ago, Mike, or was that today?
I think it was today. Let me look at the news again. Let me go to live news. Yeah, it looks like today.
Yeah, I wonder if somebody knew because Mike, look at this stock on Friday. This stock exploded on Friday from $9 all the way up to 25. That was crazy. You would think there was probably some news there too. I mean, wow, this stock has had some crazy volatility to it, and I really hope it continues. But I'd hate to say it. It seems like it just pumps so much though that at some point it'll come back down. But I hope it continues for a couple days at least with the Amazon news. Amazon's huge.
Yeah, so it looks like on Friday they also had a partnership with Fox Networks. So they're having a bunch of deals lately, and that would definitely explain the rally on Friday. But there's a ton of momentum. But Tom, I'm kind of with you. Like I honestly don't think it's worth a play at this point. Like it went from $6 up to 38 in like a month.
Yeah, and the problem is it's so risky right now. Like even if you got shares, like let's just say, let's just give a safe example. Let's just say you bought shares at like the low of today, 31.40. Now let's say we just move down to like the middle of the area yesterday down to $20. That's a 35% drop. Like this stock could seriously have some crazy moves to it. Now it could rise another 70, 100% even, but the thing is the risk of losing that 40% right there on that drop is going to be pretty crazy. So be really careful with it. I think that's going to be pretty hard to trade over the next couple days, but if you see it break the high of day today and you can get in for some very quick momentum, I think that's the way to go because it seems like it can definitely move pretty fast.
Alrighty. We have Rick saying DraftKings is struggling this morning. I know it's getting smacked. I know that they made a $20 billion offer for Entain for in the UK. So normally what happens in those scenarios, especially in a scenario where the offer is in stock, the company that's buying the other company, in this case DraftKings, you'll normally see them fall and you'll see the other company rise up. So, this is very typical movement with like mergers and acquisitions, but they didn't even get the deal yet. And then on top of that, it looks like this is just like anticipatory like movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And looking at it on the daily chart, DraftKings did just bounce off of a huge resistance at 65, and they had a great recovery up. Ever since we hit $40, it's almost been straight up for DraftKings. So it's had a pretty good past couple months. I'm not too surprised to see it consolidating. And now that we broke the 55 support, I could maybe see it falling down to like 52 or somewhere around 50, maybe. But I would really look to target this one back up. It does look like on the daily, it had a little bit of like a head and shoulders pattern here, Mike, with the head being right here and the shoulder being around $60. And it looks like it just had a little bit of a setup like that. So don't be too surprised. And like I talked about earlier, even if DraftKings falls for a couple days, who knows? It could end up popping a lot over the next couple months. And if this deal goes through, I feel like it could end up turning green.
Hopefully. Hopefully, Tom.
Yeah, hopefully. It looks like that bottom level in pre-market was at 54 on that crazy candle. So maybe 54 will be a good bottom.
We shall see. Alrighty, so it looks like I'm looking at the market right now, still mostly green. A couple more stocks have turned red. DraftKings, PENN, Redfin, Zoom, Enphase, UPS is slightly. They're more so break even. But yeah, I mean, it looks like so far today we are seeing more green movement than red movement. But when you have a candle like we're seeing right now on the SPY, it's definitely a little worrying.
Yeah, it is. I look at that. The SPY is continuing to sell off. It failed to break out above 438. And man, I could see the selling pressure really come in here. I mean, we see this at open like yesterday. We had a little bit of a pop back up, hit resistance, and then sold off throughout the day. I would really say, guys, add 435 onto your level to look for today. If the SPY breaks 435 to the downside, I feel like we could see a pretty big move down. There is another big level like around 434, but I feel like a below 435 could be pretty good. And looking at it right now, definitely looks like it might start sliding off like it did yesterday. And it just had lower highs, on the intraday chart. Lower highs are never a good thing to see. And even on the dailies, it's not good. Everybody knows that lower highs generally brings in more selling pressure. So we'll have to see what happens. But I feel like we could definitely go down a little bit more. And I'm not saying we're going to get down to 428 like we did yesterday, but I could see us get down to 434 or something.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, so good stuff there. Coca-Cola is doing pretty good today. They are up around 1%, which is big for a stock like Coca-Cola. Still looking at a couple different things. There's no great movement to the upside or the downside. Guys, let us know what stocks you're watching and we'll take a look at them. Another stock I was eyeing up for more of a longer term play was AbbVie, Tom, ABBV. This stock has been beaten down over like the past month or so, and they are a good stock and they pay a pretty nice dividend too.
Yeah, you're right. And a lot of times, whenever this stock has these big dips like this, it ends up holding support and going right back up. And we've seen it a lot in the past where this stock has gap downs like this and then ends up flying up a lot in the longer term, like over the next few months. So really eye it up, guys. It's right around that support. And I know it's been a great stock. I didn't like it too much whenever it was up here around 120, but now that we had this drop back towards this 100 support, I think it looks like a pretty good time to pick some up. And even to start to average in, I think it could be a great way to go. That way, if we do see it break all-time highs, you're in at least a little bit and you're getting in for some great moves. And if not, you can just keep averaging in as it drops down. Even if it falls down towards 90 or 100 even, averaging in will be a great way to go.
For sure. So, like, what are some main levels you have with this one?
Yeah, it looks like here on the daily over the next couple weeks, and it's not $100 even. It looks for some reason like 102 is a really big support for this one. I mean, 100 even is going to be a big one too, but we've definitely bounced a lot around the 102 area. So that's probably where I would start to average in is right around $102. Or if I didn't average in now, I would definitely average in around 102 or maybe even sell some puts, like maybe some 102 strike puts or some 100 strike puts. I think those could go pretty well, but below 100, I'm seeing another area right around $90 even. I think that'll be the next level to look for below 100. At the top, of course, we have resistance around 120, but man, it looks like it's consolidating a lot right here. And look at how many days it's just been sitting here. It's honestly been stagnant for a couple of weeks now. And I think we might end up holding this 105 support and going back up. I think that would be a pretty good move here. And with the way we went down so drastically and so quickly, I could possibly see a pretty nice pop back up. Kind of like what we saw back here on like January let's just say like, well, actually February 3rd, kind of like the end of January, you can see we had a nice gap down, hit support, and then had a nice move right back up over the past few days. And it honestly looks like that could happen again. And I'm not saying we're going to go back up to 115, but I could see like 110 or 112 pretty good.
There we go. And we have James saying, please, levels on Etsy for a swing trade. So what are you thinking?
I think it looks pretty solid. I mean, it's hard to say. We're hitting right off resistance. The main thing is going to be, I think, the overall tech sector. For me, it looks like we hit resistance, and now it looks like it might want to consolidate or go down a little bit. As long as the tech sector keeps up, though, I feel like this one could go up with it. Just for me, though, it looks like it's went up quite a bit the past few months. It definitely had a better recovery than a lot of stocks. Like if we go look at AAL, for example, you can see, I know they're two totally different stocks, but AAL has been more of consolidating down here, while stocks like Etsy are like retesting these highs. So I feel like we could see this one drop a little bit.
Yeah, these poor airlines turned around, Tom, intraday. You look at AAL, it was looking great at open, and complete reversal we had, and now it's actually tanking off. Same with RCL, CCL, they're all turning off. So that
Yeah,
sucks to see.
it does. And the overall market's kind of doing the same thing. And I wonder if it's just drawing a lot of stocks down. I know earlier, Mike, you talked about you only had one stock red on your watch list, and mine was pretty much the same. And now half my watch list is red. I have Nvidia now in the red. Netflix is red. Triple M even is red. Enphase red. Micron is red. Clover. I mean, it's just like all these stocks are turning red now. Unfortunately, Clover's really starting to break down after failing to break out above that $8 resistance. Not looking good for them. I know AMC is kind of going down today too, and it just seems like the sell-off is just kind of continuing. And I feel like that trend is kind of holding up, Mike. We saw a pop at the end of the day, and we saw a pop in pre-market, and now it opened. That selling pressure is coming right back in, and I feel like that's been happening the past few trading days. Like we could see even like last Thursday, that was the case. The market fell at open. We rose towards the end of the day, and then on Friday we just continued to sell off. And I feel like even with this pop, we might see another move back to the downside. And I feel like we keep seeing these pops back up because people are like buying up these dips with longer term shares towards the end of the day and stuff. And it just drives the market up in pre-market and at the end, because the volume gets obviously like in after hours, it's a lot easier to move the market than it is when the market's open.
Tom, you know the one stock that isn't red, though. You know it.
Oh, UPST, Mike. It has to be the one you're talking
Yep.
about. Yeah,
Yep.
look at that. Breaking its high of early in the morning. Look at that. We might get towards all-time highs with this one. I would not be surprised if we saw it. It's honestly a great move off these SMAs. And this is just crazy, Mike. It just only goes up.
Yeah, it literally does. At least right now. I know that we're gonna keep saying that, and it's gonna have a huge red day, but it just seems like this stock just goes up and up and up, and it's crazy. It kind of reminds me of Target and Home Depot from a couple months ago. Like they would just go up and up and up every day, but we all know how those setups end. It seems like it never falls, and then it just tanks off really hard. So it's like it's a unique play given that it's in a great trend, but it's literally just a matter of time before everything changes.
Yep, and I'm still going to be eyeing up those puts. And I was talking about it a lot for the past couple weeks, and I'm still going to be eyeing them up. Even if we're running up towards 350, I'll still be waiting, because let's go look at Home Depot and see how that kind of moves. So you can see it had its awesome move up. Like, I don't know how many green days in a row this was, but that was crazy. Once we broke out above 345, we just hit that resistance, and you can see two humongous red days all the way back down towards 317 at the lows. So it can definitely have big moves down, and that's kind of like what we'll be waiting for with Upstart. Is eventually we'll probably see a big move from 300 down to 250, or you will probably see something really crazy like that. And just keep in mind, even if it does fall like that, it's still going to be up a ton over the past year, so that's still great.
Here we go, and then Clinton goes 45 watching and only 16 likes. Come on, y'all, show some love. Yeah, guys, if you like the stream, it would really help us out if you could hit that like button. Tom and I have a great time streaming, and we're grateful for all of you guys that joined. So hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and of course sharing the channel would really help us out, and we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. But yeah, looking at the market right now, we're starting to see AMC fall a little bit. Tom, do you have like any top stocks or like what are you seeing in the market right now? Because I know so far this morning it was relatively boring.
Yeah, it was relatively boring, and we saw the SPY just kind of, it's like in the middle of its range. It's not really moving around too much. It does look like that slide off is kind of continuing. I'm still going to have my eyes on these stocks I talked about at the beginning of the day, like BLNK, CHPT, Plug, RUN. I think those stocks are in some pretty good spots. Looks like Plug had a pretty good pop at open, but kind of like what we saw with a lot of these airlines and stuff, ended up turning right back to the downside. They actually hit that resistance at like 2650. So I don't know. It's hard to say, but I really like the setups with these, and I hope they continue up on the daily. They're all like right around supports, and they look pretty good. So that's going to be what I'm going to be looking at for the next couple of days. And for the rest of today, I'm still going to be eyeing up LCID. I hope this one can keep going, and looks like it had a top at around 26, and we looks like we're heading right back up towards that. And man, I love this stock for the long term. I'm honestly kind of beating myself up a little bit for not selling these puts whenever it was around $20. I should have just bit the bullet and did it, but I decided not to. And man, it ended up really running up. And Lucid, just a pretty cool stock. They have some decent looking cars, granted expensive cars, but I think they'll end up doing great for the long term. And I think that this strength is awesome. It's just showing that, I think it's kind of showing the potential that Lucid could have.
All right, and then one thing I want to talk about really quickly is the opportunities we are currently seeing in the market. So I know that we're seeing a lot of mixed movement. We have tech stocks tanking. We have airlines trying to pop off. The market doesn't know which way it wants to go. It was green a couple minutes ago, and now we're starting to sell off. But out of everything, I think the biggest opportunity right now is starting a long-term portfolio if you don't have one already. There's certain stocks at great levels right now. Boeing, DraftKings, RCL, NIO, you could say Zoom, Redfin, Corsair, Run. You know what I mean? Like there's so many stocks right now that are at good levels. And there's a lot of opportunities, like let's say you just grab some shares, and you just hold on to them for, a couple months or a couple of years. They should do pretty well.
Yeah, and you could even make your own like your own portfolio or your own like little fund here. I know ARKK is a great growth fund, and they're even pretty low. But comparative to some of these stocks like CHPT, RUN, BLNK, some of these down here at these lows, like NIO, even man, you just can't beat these. And if you have like Mike said, if you wanted to start a long-term account, grabbing a few of let's just say 100 shares of just a few of these companies could end up going a long way over the next few years. And you can just see some of the growth potential here. Let's just go check out RUN. We're sitting here at $42 with an all-time high up here around 100. Even if we don't get up to 100 and we only go up to $60, that's still an awesome 50% rise. And that could honestly happen pretty easy. These are growth stocks too. A lot of these stocks aren't the slower movers. We see Apple and stuff like this moving fairly slow and steady, but man, these are growth stocks too down here that are low. They have a lot of potential for the long term, and especially some of these companies like NIO. I mean, man, we all see what Tesla has been able to do. If NIO could have some great sales numbers, they could really fly through the roof.
Yep. And we have Patrick saying CARA production announcement today. Let's take a look. CARA, it's looking pretty decent. It's up 0.5%. Nothing crazy so far, but I'll definitely keep it on my watch list.
Yeah, and I kind of like this setup on the daily. I love the way it kind of bounced off this lower 1450 support, and the way it's turning back up looks honestly pretty good here. I could see possibly a continuation here. I'm not saying we're going to fill this huge gap from before. Maybe we will with this news or something, but I think that this news could end up being pretty good just looking at the setup. But keep in mind, the news always has its own movement. I'm just going strictly just based off of the price action here.
Good stuff. Alrighty, so Tom, what are some of the top stocks you're watching for today? And do you have any last minute stocks on your radar?
Unfortunately, I'm really eyeing up stocks like AMC and stuff to the downside. It looks like they're getting close to that low of yesterday. Then they're moving below that $40 support. If we see it break that low of yesterday, we might continue to see a sell-off on this one. So puts might be a pretty good way to go. And then I'm also still going to be eyeing up Lucid to the upside. I know I talked about that one a couple minutes ago, and it looks like they did end up turning back down here. So it looks like it might have some trouble breaking 26, but keep them on the radar if they do break it. I think it ended up being a great play, but there's a lot of stocks down today, like you said, Mike. I think some of the best, one of the best ones to look at is going to be DraftKings. This stock for the long term is set to do pretty good. I'm personally so glad it's falling because I kind of missed the opportunity whenever it ran to 65. I was in for a little while, but sold out. And I really am glad to see it falling again so I can get in again at some lower levels. And like Mike said, there's a lot of good opportunities right now and don't miss them. A lot of people missed the opportunities last time. I just missed an opportunity with Lucid here and I was pretty upset. So, definitely eye up some of these stocks and in a few months, you might be really patting yourself on the back here.
All right, so thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. We had a great time and we had a lot of great questions. So thank you guys so much for joining and have an amazing rest of your day.